There is a certain kind of tension around the Lakers when people inside the league start whispering that the front office may be lining up something bigger than a routine off-season adjustment. In this city, nobody gets excited about small moves for very long. The conversation always comes back to the same thing. Does this raise the ceiling enough to matter in June? And that is exactly why this OG Anunoby rumor is getting real traction around Los Angeles, because the idea behind it is not cosmetic. The idea is to harden this roster around Luka Doncic and give the Lakers the kind of two-way backbone that holds up when every possession starts feeling heavy. The message coming from Luka's side is not difficult to read. He is 26, he understands what it means to carry a franchise like this, and he did not come to the Lakers to spend his prime waiting on a patient rebuild. He wants a roster that can win now, and that changes the urgency in every room at the top of the organization. Rob Pelinka knows that when a player of that level makes it clear he wants acceleration, you do not answer with caution, you answer with action. That is why a player like Anunoby makes sense in these discussions. He does not need the ball to justify his value, and for a team built around Luka's control of the offense, that matters more than people think. On the court, the fit is obvious the moment you picture it. The Lakers already know Luka can bend a defense until it breaks. Austin Reeves can give you secondary creation, feel, and late clock shot making. Marcus Smart brings edge, toughness, and the kind of voice this team has needed more consistently. What is missing is that wing presence who can erase mistakes, guard elite scorers without help every trip, and still punish defenses when the ball swings his way. OG gives you that. He spaces the floor without demanding attention. He defends like every possession means something. And he gives JJ Redick options that matter in playoff basketball, not just on a random night in January. If you're a real Lakers fan and want to stay updated on everything happening with this team, subscribe now because things could get interesting very soon. And this is where the money part of the conversation gets real. A contract that size is not something the Lakers would absorb unless they believe the move could push them into true contender territory. That is the gamble. There are people around the league who will bring up durability, and that concern is fair. In Los Angeles, though, banners have never been won by thinking small. This franchise has always moved with pressure on its shoulders and history in the background. If the Lakers believe OG is the piece that stabilizes the defense, protects Luka from having to do too much on that end, and gives this roster more playoff credibility, then the tax bill becomes secondary to the standard. That is why this rumor feels different from the usual noise. It sounds like a front office trying to line up the present with the expectation that comes with this jersey. Nothing about the Lakers is built for slow acceptance or moral victories. If you are wearing purple and gold, the demand is bigger than just being relevant. It is about giving this city a team that looks ready for the brightest games again. Write Lake Show forever if you believe the Lakers can still make another serious run. And keep close to this story because the feeling around this one is that there may be more layers to it than people realize. What also makes this situation worth watching is the broader strategy behind it. People usually look at a trade and focus only on the player coming in, but the Lakers have to think bigger than that. If this deal really helps direct Giannis away from the West while bringing in a proven defensive piece to Los Angeles, then Pelinka is not just adjusting his own roster. He is shaping the road in front of it. That matters when the conference is this demanding and when every serious contender is looking for one more advantage before next season takes form. The Lakers do not need a move that wins the press conference for one afternoon. They need one that changes how opposing teams see them when a playoff series is on the table. Inside the building, that is the part that cannot be ignored. There has been a lot of attention on the offensive side because Luka changes everything the moment he has the ball in his hands, but the deeper issue has been balance. Championship teams do not spend 4 rounds trying to outscore every weakness they have. At some point, they need lineups that can get stops without overcomplicating every defensive possession. OG would give the Lakers a cleaner structure. He can take the toughest wing matchup, he can switch without panic, and he can hold the line physically in games that turn ugly. For a franchise that has always been judged by how it holds up in the biggest moments, that kind of presence is not a luxury. It is a requirement. There is also something else here that longtime Lakers fans will understand immediately. This franchise has always carried itself like it belongs in the center of the league, and when it falls short, the reaction is never passive. The expectation is not to drift through a season and see what happens. The expectation is to respond, to correct, to to strike before the window narrows. That is why this rumor has people talking the way it does. Not because OG is the loudest name in basketball, but because he fits the kind of winning structure that this team may be trying to rebuild around its new centerpiece. The Lakers know stars win attention, but the right two-way players win trust inside a playoff run. And from the fan perspective, this is exactly the kind of decision that splits a room for the right reasons. One side sees the contract, the injury history, the long-term restrictions, and asks whether the cost is too steep. The other side sees a roster that may already have enough skill to scare people and believes the real difference now is discipline, resistance, and playoff reliability. In a city like this, both sides will be loud because this fan base has seen enough great teams to know the details matter. But there is a real sense right now that standing still would carry its own risk. With Luka in place and the pressure already building around what comes next, hesitation may be more dangerous than boldness. That is why the next stretch matters so much, because every whisper around this roster starts to feel louder when the front office knows the clock is already moving. Comment, "Purple and gold never fades," if you know this franchise always comes back into the fight. And if you follow this team closely, this is the moment to subscribe and stay locked in, because when a story like this starts gaining real momentum, the biggest update usually does not arrive with much warning. The Lakers are rarely quiet for long, and this one feels like the kind of situation that could shift fast once the doors start opening. Around the league, the people who study roster building for a living understand why this kind of move keeps surfacing around the Lakers. It is not about adding another headline just to win the day on television. It is about building a lineup that makes more sense when the game slows down and every weakness gets attacked over and over. Luka can carry offense at a level very few players ever reach, but the Lakers cannot ask him to solve every problem by himself. That is how talented teams end up looking incomplete in late May. A player like OG changes the texture of a series. He gives you a defender who does not blink, a body that can handle the physical matchups, and an offensive piece who knows how to stay useful without disrupting the rhythm of the stars. The part that keeps coming up in conversations around this team is trust. Can JJ Redick trust the lineups enough to leave them on the floor in the final 6 minutes of a playoff game when the pressure gets heavy and every possession feels like it could swing the season? That is where this rumor starts sounding more serious than casual off-season noise. OG is the kind of player coaches trust because he does not need to be protected. He can guard up, he can guard across, and he can sit inside a structure without needing special touches to stay engaged. For the Lakers, that matters because the offense already has its central force. The real challenge now is making sure the rest of the roster strengthens that identity instead of pulling against it. There is also the emotional side of this that only Lakers fans really understand. This franchise does not get measured the way most teams do. A solid season is not enough. A competitive second round is not enough. People who have followed this team through the Showtime years, the Kobe banners, the title runs, and every era in between know exactly what the standard sounds like. It follows every move, every rumor, every front office decision. That pressure can be uncomfortable, but it also creates clarity. When a move is on the table that could make the roster tougher, cleaner, and more playoff ready, the expectation is to seriously consider it, not hide behind caution and call it patience. What makes this even more interesting is the possibility that the Lakers may not be done thinking beyond just one adjustment. A deal like this can be the first signal of a broader reset around Luka's timeline, where every next decision is made with the same question in mind. Does this raise the level of a championship push, or does it simply preserve flexibility without changing the outcome? In Los Angeles, people can feel the difference. That is why this story keeps its grip. It sounds like the kind of front office thinking that comes from knowing the next chapter cannot be wasted. Write Lakers pride if you have supported this team through every era. And this is exactly why now is the moment to subscribe, because when the Lakers start circling high-level moves, the story never stays in one place for long. One call can change the direction of the conversation, one meeting can speed everything up, and one real leak can can tell you the franchise is closer than people thought. The audience that stays ahead on this team is usually the one paying attention before the deal becomes obvious to everybody else. There is a real feeling that this situation is still building, and the next development could say even more about how serious the Lakers are about chasing the top again. If you follow the Lakers and don't want to miss the next big story around this franchise, make sure to subscribe right now. What makes the Lakers different is that every real move carries weight far beyond the transaction itself. This is about showing Luka, the locker room, and the entire league that Los Angeles still intends to operate at a championship standard, not just talk about it. If OG is truly within reach, this is the kind of decision that tells you how aggressive the front office is willing to be when the pressure rises. Comment, "The banners tell the story," if you believe the history of this franchise still matters today. And subscribe right now, because this channel stays on top of every serious Lakers development the moment it starts to move. And with the way this story is building, the next major update may be the one that changes everything.